The Smell of Money, created for the Sunday Times. Hello, my name's Roger Dove. I work as a perfumer, and I've been asked if I can capture the scent of money itself, the scent of a £10 note that we're just about to lose, for the Sunday Times. Let's see what happens. So the idea for this composition was really quite simple. Could I capture the smell of the paper itself? Could I capture the slightly metallic scent of the ink? And then could I capture the scent of humanity and the hands that the money has passed through? From a new note, where you smell the rawness and the freshness of it, with just a few hands having touched it, to something which smells without any question, as though it's passed through the whole of humanity's hands. Here we are, an ode to the lost £10 note. So, what you'll see in front of you, this is called a Perfumers Organ. Perfumers organs are normally a piece of furniture, a desk about this size, which would have shelves tiered, like you see here, so that we can get to things very easily. I work with this little tiny organ, which was made for me by Dunhill, because it folds up and it becomes a piece of luggage almost that I can carry anywhere in the world. So I've made a list of the raw materials that I think are going to make this creation. The raw materials which will capture the smell of the paper itself. So for example, one of them in fact comes from papyrus, which has a connection to paper. And then ink, so a lot of wonderful synthetic materials which have this slightly metallic edge that, in my opinion, ink and fresh print have. I've then pulled out sets of raw materials that I wanted for this specific project. Some of them are materials that I don't use in the organ because they're things that I wouldn't necessarily use when I'm making a perfume. So they're not particularly scents that somebody might want to walk down the road smelling of. But that's not the idea of this project. It's to make the smell of our £10 note. So after the paper and the ink, the smell of humanity, the hands that have touched the money, some materials which smell slightly fresh to give the idea that we've touched it, but it still clings on to the newness of the print. And then the smell of a very, very old note, something which is aged and round, almost slightly oily, where it's picked up sebum from people's hands and all the different things they've touched. So this becomes the backbone for the formula. Now all I need to do is weigh it out and balance it. So the first thing I'm doing is putting in some alcohol. This is 100% proof. The reason to use such a high grade of alcohol is I want this scent to be very, very diffusive, maybe like the excitement of being given some money, who knows, but also it will allow some of the very, very oily materials to diffuse properly. So the first of the materials I'm going to put in is Cyprian. And with the Cyprian, a little bit of Gersham. This material is a fraction of Gersham, so it's not quite as deep as the whole oil. The feeling of the ink, so we start to come with some of these wonderful synthetics. There's a material called adoxal. The risk with these materials is to be able to balance them so that they're not too fresh, but they end up giving us this slightly metallic edge. And this, which smells a little bit like something that's damp. So at the moment, everything about it is very, very light and fresh. It's the background. I want to put a little bit of something with a metallic side to it, which is an aldehyde, C12MNA. That is going to be a difficult one to dose, but let's see what happens to it. At the moment, the problem when you do something like this, so this is the first part of the sketch, if you like, and as soon as I put the other raw materials, it will alter all of these totally, and of course I can't take material out once it's in. So at this stage, the reason I've made these two versions is to see whether the aldehyde gives me something that I really want, or something that I might want to take away, and I'll only know that when I put the other raw materials in. So as I start to build it, If I decide the aldehyde is wrong, I will make this first part again, which I think is very good, remove the aldehyde and then build on that. If that doesn't work, you throw it away, and so the process goes on and on, which is why sometimes making a scent can take 6 months, a year, 2 years. It's all about balancing. But I like the beginning of it. I think it has a good feel. I want to work on the idea of many hands having touched. And so I'm going to come with a rather fabulous leather note, and this will need dosing incredibly carefully. And to push that leathery aspect, a tiny touch of bouleau. This is extraordinarily pungent and totally not for the faint-hearted. That might not look like much, because it literally was one drop, but that one drop could overpower everything. But I hope it's going to give me what I want. Which it does, which I'm very pleased about. So this is a synthetic material of an animal, a synthetic copy of an animal note, which smells absolutely of unwashed bodies. Because the thing you should remember is you never know where your money has been. So I like where it's going. It needs to have a rounded, aged feel. And so now comes a material which will do just that, or should round off all the other raw materials to make us feel that this note is really an old note. It's starting to get that really a fabulous smell of greasy, dirty hands. Something old. Still the smell of the ink. I'm happy so far. And here is a little speciality base that I worked on, capturing some of these raw materials, especially for this project, which is already an alcoholic dilution. Which has a lot of woods in it, has certainly a lot of cedarwood, elemi, a little bit of patchouli, but a fraction of patchouli. So it doesn't have the dark earthiness that you would normally expect. A marvellous material called cashmeran, which is a woody note. So what's interesting, the first materials, the papery note, I think, caught quite well, but it has sweetness to it, which I don't want. In starts to come some of the inky notes, but what's interesting is they flatten everything down. And then as we start to come with this idea of humanity, I like the idea that it actually carries the scent of us. Maybe that's why we're so attached to it. Maybe we like the fact that we smell ourselves without realizing it when we handle money. I now have to wait to see how these raw materials will interact with each other over a period of time. So when I smell this later today, when I smell it in a week's time, when I smell it in a month's time, the scent itself will alter. I have to know if I like how it's altered. Does it go in the direction I want? If not, I have to modify it. And if that doesn't work, you have to start again. And that is the work of a perfumer. So welcome back. If you remember, I left you with my scent sitting in the bottle where it was going to maturate. Earlier I filled it, so here it is. And on the blotter, let's put the scent and see if I've really caught it. So I think it's perfect. I had the idea, I wanted to capture the idea of the scent of paper, ink, which had sort of disappeared, and humanity. And this to me smells like smelling inside a wallet stuffed full, if you're lucky, with £10 notes. Very happy with it. So the great thing, when everybody else is really, really handling plastic, maybe once in a while I just put the odd drop on my plastic £10 notes to remind me of the real McCoy.